Well, hello, afternoon or morning, depends on where you are and when you're watching this. I just wanted to do kind of a wrap up of my PCT through hike. It's been a long journey, a few days short of 6 months. Um, the PCT is one of three long distance scenic trails in the United States. It runs from California to Oregon and Washington for 2,655.2 miles. The other two trails are the Appalachian Trail on the East Coast and the Continental Divide Trail in the middle of the country. The of the 2,655 miles, I hiked about 70% of those, just a little less than 70%. I did have issues with weather that caused me not to complete some of the trail. San Jacinto, I lost almost 40 miles. That was due to high snow levels over the winter, and it was recommended it was not safe to go through there if you didn't have some extensive snow experience. Same thing applied to the Sierra. 679 miles. Both of those were because of the heavy snowfall, almost 300% of normal we had the previous winter. So that prevented me from hiking those areas. In Washington State, I had 127 miles of fire closures due to two fire areas that I didn't hike. The fact that I only did 1,809 miles was disappointing. However, given what I was given to start with, my age and the weather conditions I had and fires, some of those things were out of my control. I really couldn't do the whole trail. I would have loved to have done the whole trail and completed it, but early on in the hike, I realized that I just wasn't able to do the number of miles I needed to do. If you're going to do this in 5 miles, which was my initial goal, you need to do about 17 miles a day. And that's not counting where you take a zero, take a day off the trail and don't hike any miles. We call those zeros. And early on in the hike, I realized I wasn't going to be able to do that. So I knew I wasn't going to make the whole thing. It's what it was. While I was disappointing, I still am pleased with what I did, given what I was handed. I couldn't control the weather. At my age, I couldn't put in the energy that I needed to put in to hike longer miles. But I'm pleased with what happened. People have asked, are you going to go back and fill in some of those areas? Probably not anytime soon. I'd like to go back and do San Jacinto. That could be a long weekend. That's easy enough. I can drive down there. It's close enough. The Sierra is a lot longer, and that would take a lot longer to do. Even though I'm retired, I still am involved in some volunteer efforts, and taking the time off for those is not feasible again. I took 6 months off this year, and I don't think I can do that again to fill in some of those areas. I may go out and do some week-long hikes in some of those areas just to get the feel for it. But I certainly am not going to go back and do a long through hike like I did. It's just not in the cards with where I am right now in life. The hike itself, I was gone 171 days when I started. Of those, I spent 14 days not hiking at all. We called it zeros because there's 0 miles. And 33 days I spent as partial days where I did, we call it near zero, but in some cases they were still extensive miles, maybe 10 miles a day instead of 15 or whatever I was doing. I took short days, or either at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, started late or stopped early. Some of those were out of my control. For the zeros, I had 7 weather delays for zeros and 1 fire-related delay for days that I had to take off trail. Narrows, I had 2 that were attributed to the post office. One, they were closed on a holiday, and we couldn't do much about that. I had to wait for them to open to get my box. And the other was they misshipped a box, and I had to wait for it to show up. So that lost me some time. And again, 5 weather-related narrow delays, and again 1 fire-related narrow days. So those were out of my control, but for the most part, I think that worked out well. When you're hiking a trail like this, you do need to take time off the trail. Obviously, you need to stop periodically, resupply with food. And generally, when you do that, you try to get a shower, you try to do laundry when you're in town. And generally, that eats up most of your narrow day. I mean, if you get into town at midday, by the time you find a place and you get a shower, you get some laundry done, and you buy some food to restock and repack, the day's gone. You've eaten up that day. And if you have other things you need to do and other tasks, and maybe just some R&R for mental health, you need that extra zero in there periodically to let your body rest and let your mind rest. Sometimes just sitting in a restaurant or a bar and sharing stories with other folks is good for you to just kind of veg out a little bit. You can't do this day in and day out for 5 to 6 months without taking some breaks. And if you're planning a hike like this, you need to think about that. It's important. One thing that I noticed for me was I was not getting enough calories early on in the hike. I wasn't hungry, but I certainly wasn't getting enough calories. I lost 40 pounds on this hike. That's a lot. I didn't realize it was that much until later. Um, but calories are important. You're burning a lot of calories. And if you're planning a hike like this, take a look at your food. Take a look at how many calories are involved. Learn to read the labels. What's the percentage of fat? What's the percentage of protein? What's the percentage of carbohydrates and sugars in that food? And then compare that to what it weighs. Does it have an adequate amount of calories for the weight that you're going to have to carry? And early on, I didn't have enough calories. Um, in the later part of the hike, I did. I was eating a lot more food, of course, that added more weight, but it was well worth it because at the end of the day, I had more energy than I had early on. Um, but anyway, something to think about if you're going to plan a hike like this. If you are planning a hike, I would recommend you start slow. Don't come out of the gate expecting you're going to do 15 to 18 miles a day. If you do, you're probably going to get hurt. Most people that stop the trail the vast majority end up stopping in the first 100 miles. And generally it's because of injuries, pulled muscles, sprains, plantar fasciitis, other things that get exacerbated because you're pushing your body too hard too soon. Build up to it. Start out slow and build up to those longer miles. Don't just come out the gate, expect you're going to be doing those things. I don't care how much preparation you do. Going out for a weekend is not the same as doing this month on month. So take it easy when you start out. Another thing I think you need to think about if you're planning a hike like this is your gear. Make sure you've tested your gear well. Probably the most important things are your sleeping system, which includes your tent, your sleeping bag or quilt, and your mattress, your air mattress or thermal pad or something, and your backpack. Those are the most important things you need to understand fully before you go on a hike like this. I've seen people that have never set their tent up before they get on a hike. That's a big mistake. Make sure you can set it up. Make sure you can set it up in the dark. Make sure you know what happens if it gets rained on. Set it up in the yard and turn on the garden hose. Let the sprinklers run. See what happens. Does your tent stay dry? Do you need to do some seam sealing? Find out before you get out on the trail. That's not the place to find out you got a big leak or the way you set it up isn't correct. Your backpack is probably the biggest problem a lot of folks have. Some people go out and buy a backpack thinking it's a one size fits all. It's not. A backpack needs to be sized to your body. You need to measure your torso, you need to measure your hip, and you need to get a pack that matches those figures. And then you need to try that pack, see if it's going to work for you. If you don't, you're going to have shoulder pain, you're going to have back pain, you're going to be uncomfortable, and you're not going to be able to do the hiking and the miles you want to put in every day. Make sure you know how, if you're going to go online and buy a pack, make sure you fully understand how to measure your body, have someone help you, and buy a pack that's going to fit your torso size and your hip size. Realize you're probably going to lose some weight on the trail. Everybody does. You may need to buy an extra hip belt. I did. I had to buy an extra hip belt partway through the trail because of the weight I lost. The initial belt I started with, halfway through the hike, was not giving me the support I needed. It was not taking the weight off of my shoulders, and it was causing me problems. So I got a smaller hip belt. Worked fine after that. If you can't take the time to research that, go to a reliable outfitter and have them do the measuring and have them help you out. And then in the store, put the pack on, see if you can put some weight in the pack and walk around the store inside and just see how it feels. Now, granted, that's not the same as hiking 10 miles, but make sure the pack feels good on your body. It's not going to pull too tight on your shoulders. It's not going to, the weight's balanced where it should be on your hip, not on your shoulders. Try it out. If you're going to buy it online, do a lot of research before you do. Make sure it's a reputable seller. Make sure it's you've researched what you need to do in terms of how to measure your body, and you're going to buy a pack that's going to fit you. Some packs have a little bit of adjustability, but not a lot. Like I say, torso size and hip belts are the two biggest areas you need to verify. take pictures on trail. Um, Obviously, everybody takes pictures of scenery, but the one thing you don't take is pictures of people. At least I didn't, and I regret that. I wished I would have taken more people pictures early on. You meet so many wonderful people that you've hiked with, that you've met in towns, trail angels, people providing trail magic. These are people that you're going to want to remember later on. I have a lot of names, but I don't have as many pictures as I would like from early on in the trail. Um, and I'm disappointed in that. I wished I would have taken more pictures of the people I spent time with, whether it's sitting down for a beer or a meal in town, or whether it's sitting around a campfire at a campsite, or just hiking with them for a day or two. Um, there's memories there that pictures are going to help you remember. I have names, but I don't have pictures of a lot of people. I wished I had their pictures. Back to food a minute. Some people like to prepare their food plan way ahead of time, have boxes made and ship them to themselves. And that's certainly something you can do if you want. I personally don't think that's a great idea. When you figure the cost of the food plus the cost of shipping, you're probably going to work out about the same as just buying it locally in town. Granted, some of these small towns, food prices are expensive, but you figure in the cost of freight, on top of that, it's pretty close to a wash, in my opinion, in most places. Some places it's not, but in most places. But the other issue is what you think you're going to want to eat 2 months from now is not what you're going to actually eat in 2 months. If you plan your menus out that far in advance and have stuff ready to ship to you, I guarantee you're going to be sick of some of that food. It's not going to be something you want to eat. And if you don't eat it, then you're short on calories. So, or you're having to go into town and spend more money eating at a restaurant or a fast food place or something. So think about your food and be prepared that you're going to want to change your menu as you go through the hike. You're going to get tired of something. You're going to find something you prefer better. And, you walk into a store and see something you'd never tried before and you try and you like it. So you want to use that instead of the food you plan. So be aware of that. Be flexible. And regarding flexibility, you got to expect changes. Same thing with planning out your food. Some people plan out their hike. Say, I'm going to be in this town this day and this day and this day. It's not going to happen. You're going to have weather issues. You're going to have fires that are going to close the trail and make you detour and delay. You're going to find trails that are easy and you move faster. And you're going to find trails that are difficult and slow you down. And those things are all going to mess up any schedule you have. It's sometimes hard to plan 1 or 2 days ahead, let alone for weeks and months at a time. So be flexible. Be aware that things may change, and you have to adapt to that. Would I do the hike again? Not to do the same hike again. No, I mean, once I've done it, I wouldn't go back and do it again. Some people do. Some people like to go out and hike the trail every couple of years. But had I never done it, yes, I would go back and do it again, or do it the first time. I think it was a wonderful experience. Is it hard? Yes. Is it taxing on your physical body and your mental sanity? Yes, it is. You have to push through difficulties. You're uncomfortable. It's cold. It's hot. It's wet. It's whatever. You got to push through that, and that's a mental issue. You're physically tired, you got to push through that. That's a physical issue. So, but I think it's worth it in the end. I enjoyed the whole thing I did. And if I had never done it, yes, I would do it again. It was an enjoyable experience. Well, finally, I'd like to thank everyone I met on the trail that helped me. That is a long list of people. I wished I had the time to thank them all personally. But people I hiked with, trail angels that gave us rides, that helped us out in town, that gave us places to sleep. Certainly people who did trail magic, those were, some of the best days when you had trail magic. It made the day go so well to have that little extra food, friendship, fellowship on the trail. That was great. There's so many people. I'd like to name them all, but I'd be here another hour if I did. And I don't want to do that. I don't think anybody would watch it. Again, if I met you anywhere along the way, thank you. You were part of my journey, and I certainly appreciate knowing you and meeting you and either sharing a meal or a drink or just saying hello as we pass by. And I certainly appreciate all the help that people provided to help me get around, find places to stay, and food, things like that. It's amazing. Humanity's good. There's a lot of great people out there, and I'm going to do my best to pass it on. I'd like to find a way to do some trail magic myself next year. We'll see. So, again, thank you all for watching. If you're planning a hike like this, please go out, do it, try it. It's one step at a time, and never stop on a bad day. Goodbye.